Hello everyone. Um, Nice to be here with you all. I'm Dimbie, and I'll be taking you through mindfulness as a tool for mind development. And before I go further, let me quickly acknowledge Du for her efforts. I think it's all good. We are going somewhere. We are getting somewhere, and I'm extending an invite for me to take part in this lesson, to this program. It's an honor to be here with you all. So, as stated earlier on in our publicity, we're talking about mindfulness as a tool for developing focus and attention. In her previous video, short video, Du mentioned that mindfulness is relatively new on this continent. And truth is that it is relatively new on this continent. But that notwithstanding, if people are practicing mindfulness elsewhere and it's helping them, it's really giving them direction, focus, attention, then it's only proper that we also get to understand what mindfulness is and how to tap from that field which is relatively new on the continent. But well, greetings to all of you again, and then we'll just talk about mindfulness briefly. But before we get further and to more detail, maybe we have to understand who is capable or who is eligible to practice mindfulness. Well, we have different forms of mindfulness, and depending on how you want to use it, but it has no boundaries. Mindfulness is open to everybody. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your gender, it has nothing to do with your race. As long as you are a human being and you have a brain, you can practice mindfulness. But before we even get more further into the whole concept of mindfulness, I'll explain some few points. Let me explain two key components. We'll talk about the mind first, and then we'll talk about the brain. We have to be able to distinguish between the two, to know the difference between the mind and the brain. Most often people interchange them. Well, it doesn't really have that much effect, but it's only better and proper that you understand what the brain is and what the mind is. So first and foremost, we all know what the brain is, obviously. That is that organ which is in the skull. I think everybody has it. But the problem is, how do we use the brain? How do we use the mind actually? Now, in an attempt to use the mind, we have a field, an open field, which is actually limitless. So the mind is the space in which the brain operates. And the space within which the brain operates is limitless. So you can physically be in one geographical location, and your mind space can stretch as far as the stars, as far as the galaxies can reach. So these are basically the spaces within which the mind works. Okay, so Du, you're alive, right? All right. So I was just talking about the mind and the brain. I stated earlier on, it is very important you understand the difference between the brain and the mind. The brain is the organ you have in the skull, and the mind is the space within which the landscape within which the brain operates. The mind is limitless, but the brain resides in the skull. Now, mindfulness, let's talk about mindfulness now, because we really have to understand how we interpret the activities of the mind, how we pay attention to activities of the mind. Now, nobody is saying that you shouldn't be responsible with your thoughts. But as much as possible, we must understand that the capabilities of the human mind are only limited by the perception of an individual. The human mind is capable of doing everything. Anything which is conceivable, anything that can be thought of, anything that can be planned is actually done in the brain. And the space within which it does that is the mind. Now, oh yes, that's true. The mind is limitless and the brain resides in the skull. Now, mindfulness is an act which gives you the leverage, which gives you the power to really contribute to the narrative, to the activities going up in your mind. Now, I always use the scenario of a mobile phone or a driver. Let's use a driver for instance. You own a car. When you wake up every morning, you are advised to check your fuel level, check your oil level, make sure your lights and everything is working before you set out. That is exactly how the human mind must be approached. The care with which you give your brain and your mind is almost equal to the care we give to the vehicle. But in this case, it is even more important to give more care and attention to your mind. Everybody has a mind which wanders without proper guidance. It wanders aimlessly if you don't localize it. It wanders to places. It chases ideas. Sometimes you'll be sitting down and somebody passes in front of you without even saying hello, good morning, and then your mind starts wandering. Why is this person not greeting me? What at all have I done? Or did she hear something? Did he hear something? You have your mind wandering aimlessly, stressing you up. You might begin to feel that it is normal, but this is not normal. If you are responsible for the activities going up in your mind, you will get to realize that you are actually responsible for your emotions. As I stated earlier on, mindfulness basically is that present moment, that activity of constantly being in the present moment, understanding everything going up in your mind, and being non-judgmental. It is very important you understand that being non-judgmental helps a lot. It is a common practice elsewhere. But in our settings, no. We are not advised. You are supposed to go by the programming. From A, you go to B. From B, you go to C. From C, you go to D. Well, if the programming fails, if there's a glitch, you are going to be left hanging. And that is where the responsibility, the honor lies on you to take care of the activities going up in your mind. So basically, in the nutshell, we can look at mindfulness as always being in the present moment of monitoring, taking part in the narrative of your brain's activity. And it's very important because immediately you develop this habit, immediately you learn how to constantly monitor your mind's activity, then you are halfway there. Yes. You don't judge them. That should do. If you are able to be in the present moment, monitoring every single thought, watching the path and directions within which your emotions flow, beginning honestly, to be honest, at the very beginning, you're going to find it weird and strange. But when you practice it more, you get to realize that it becomes a part of you. Well, mindfulness in itself is a lifestyle. It's a practice, a lifestyle. You don't practice mindfulness today and tomorrow you let it go. Immediately you start practicing mindfulness, you're supposed to go with the flow. And you begin to benefit from it once you practice it over and over. As a matter of fact, we call it mindfulness practices because you have to practice it over and over so that when the situation arises for you to apply what you have practiced in your mind, it becomes relatively easy. Okay, so I'm seeing your question here. So how can one learn how to monitor the thoughts? Okay, so we'll get there briefly, but I'm just trying to give the general picture as to what mindfulness is all about. How you're supposed to constantly and continuously be part of the narrative, the activities going up in your mind. You're supposed to monitor them. And when you do that after some time, it becomes automatic. You don't have to deliberately go in there and check again, because it becomes part of you and it's a lifestyle. Now, so when it comes to mindfulness, we have different forms of mindfulness. Yes, we have different forms of mindfulness. We have mindfulness and mindfulness well-being. As a matter of fact, if you want to really take care of your well-being, be it your physical well-being, your emotional well-being, you have to inculcate mindfulness into it. Mindfulness and mindfulness well-being. We have mindfulness and mindfulness stress reduction. You see, without adequate practice of mindfulness, you might not be able to switch between the two primary modes of the human mind. You can be in the thinking mode or you can be in the sensing mode. So if you want to really monitor and check your stress, mindfulness practices will help you to switch between these modes, so that anytime you are sitting down and you begin to realize that you are thinking too much, one mindfulness practice we have is what we call the body scan. If you realize you are thinking too much, a very quick practice you can indulge in is the body scan, where you quickly scan your entire body to take your attention away from what you are thinking, assuming you don't want to go that path. We have mindfulness and mindfulness well-being, mindfulness and mindfulness stress reduction. We have mindfulness and mindfulness productivity. We have different forms of mindfulness, but the truth is that you have to bring your mind to bear in every activity you are doing. It's big business elsewhere. The Western countries are all doing it. Mindfulness, stress reduction. If you go to their health facilities, if you go to clinics, training centers, they run mindfulness. What is very, very important. Currently, the entire UK government has decided to make children under over the ages of 8 years to practice mindfulness as a way of boosting happiness and then to reduce stress and worry in the kids. So mindfulness is serious business. You can practice mindfulness anywhere, and later on I'll be giving you some few mindfulness techniques that I practice personally, and it helps. Actually, it works. It has saved me. It has taken me out of situations, problems where ordinarily would have been very hostile. But I'll be mentioning some few mindfulness techniques to help you develop attention. It will help you develop focus. Later on, emotional intelligence will grow. You will develop better character, better judgment. All these things come with mindfulness practices. And as I said, anybody at all can practice mindfulness. All you need is just a little time you allocate in each day just to open up your mind, check out everything that is going in there, make sure your level of emotions is where you want it to be, make sure intuitively you are functioning properly, make sure your imaginative capabilities, your faculty of imagination is also tuned properly, because you don't want your mind imagining and seeing stuff which is just necessarily going to tune you or shift you to the thinking mode. If you go to the thinking mode without properly understanding it, you will stress yourself out. You will stress yourself out. So mindfulness can be practiced by anybody. It can be practiced everywhere. All you need is just a little time. You can give yourself 5 minutes in a day, 10 minutes in a day. It depends. Oh yes, mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. We'll talk about that briefly. It's actually one of the practices I do. You can use meditation to practice mindfulness, actually. Yes, you can use meditation to practice mindfulness, but we'll get there. So, as I said earlier on, everybody can practice mindfulness. Anybody can practice mindfulness. As long as you can bring your attention, your focus to your present awareness, you will practice mindfulness. Now, most people think that practicing mindfulness means that you have to go and get a very quiet environment, sit down and cross your legs like a Buddhist monk or something, some macabre obsession or something. But the truth is that I can sit here right now and quickly check up on what is going up in my head. I can lie down and quickly scan my entire body from my head to my toes, my feet. You can walk and practice mindfulness. You can eat and practice mindfulness. You can drive and practice mindfulness. One thing you get to realize about people driving or riding is that they can drive to... Okay, sorry about that. You can drive or walk or ride from point A up to point B, and you wouldn't even know how you got to that place. You're completely and totally absent-minded. You are driving all right, but you are not bringing mindfulness to it. You have to bring your present moment. Now, this little activity that you do every day, bringing your awareness to the present moment, invariantly or in little minute units, will help you to develop focus. Because in every activity you are doing, if you don't bring attention and focus to it, you will easily give up. You can't build resilience. No. If you don't bring an amount of mindfulness to everything you are doing, you will not build resilience. You will not build focus and attention. So the little mindfulness practices that you do, at the end of the day, gives you that leverage, that ability to develop your focus and attention. And I think that brings us to today, why we are here actually. How to use mindfulness to develop focus and attention. I made mention that we have different forms of mindfulness. Depending on the situation and where you find yourself, depending on how you want to bring your awareness forward, you can define your mindfulness within that context. Currently, we have some students who are going through this mindfulness program training. We call it the Mindfulness in School program, and it's working. We have people who are beginning to learn how to be intelligent about their emotions. We have students who are beginning to learn how to develop better character and better judgment. We have students who are beginning to monitor their minds and activities. It goes on and on and on. Everybody can practice mindfulness. As a matter of fact, everybody should practice mindfulness, because you practice mindfulness, at the end of the day, you will develop focus and attention. Let me run you through a typical day when I wake up and how I bring my attention to the foreground. So a typical day, I wake up, I'm lying on the bed, I do a very quick body scan, or just to make sure my feet are still connected to my body, the rest of my body, right? But I do what we call a quick body scan. It's a little complicated but very simple, where you have to learn how to channel electrical impulses from your head to your toe and back again. So I run electrical impulses up and down for some time, just to get electricity running through my body properly. Then after that, I have a yoga mat in my room, so I get on the yoga mat and I do 10 minutes, 15 minutes or 20 minutes yoga stretches. Now these activities I'm mentioning are some few mindfulness techniques that you also have to begin to practice. After stretching yoga, we have different forms of yoga. You have yoga for flexibility, yoga for sleep. Probably you will need a little bit of guidance too, a little bit of coaching for you to be able to understand the different forms of yoga practices we have and when to use them. But for me personally, I practice it just to get the blood circulating properly. But it's a mindfulness practice too. So first I do is scan my body, get my impulses running fully. The second one, I get blood circulating properly. Now, immediately after practicing the yoga or after stretching my yoga, I give myself just 5 minutes to meditate. And this is where the magic happens. Because I don't know what is outside my room, but I am going to pre-program the way I want my day to go, not what somebody else will want my day to go. So if you meet me and what you are saying doesn't vibe with me, I just walk away, because then you are bringing your negative energy to worry me. So I've mentioned 3 things: body scan, yoga stretch, and meditation. These are 3 simple basic mindfulness practices that anybody can practice to develop focus and attention. These are 3 basic mindfulness practices. But when you are meditating with proper guidance, you will get to appreciate how breathing affects your mind. Proper breathing, yes, body scan. If you practice meditation properly, where you get to realize that your mind behaves like a dog, but the slightest idea you pick, you realize that your mind will begin to follow that idea, that thought process, that line of thinking, and your attention will be brought to it for you to bring it to the present moment again. So what yoga practice actually, meditation practice actually does is that it helps you develop the ability to really fix your attention and focus on the present moment. Yeah, I'm seeing you highlighting them. That's true. Body scanning, yoga stretch, and meditation. These are mindfulness practices that you can practice. Maybe the fourth one, which is basically visualization techniques. It comes with meditation, where you begin to visualize the way you want the rest of your day to go. Yes, you begin to visualize the way you want the rest of your day to go. It gives you the ability to be focused on how you want the rest of your day to go. So I give myself 10 years, 15 years to achieve A, B, and C. Every day I visualize, I meditate. It gives me a clear picture of what I want to achieve, therefore giving me the ability to be more focused on it. It's amazing and really very sad that in our settings we have not been given the opportunity, we have not been given the space to practice mindfulness. And as I stated earlier on, mindfulness doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put yourself in a certain macabre position, you have to cross your legs. No. It is a very simple practice where you bring your attention, you deliberately bring your attention to the present moment, where you are watching exactly what you are thinking about. You are watching exactly what you are feeling about. Because we know what you feel and think about constantly, you attract. Mindfulness is such a powerful practice that everybody must understand. It's a powerful practice which has been denied this continent. Because I think earlier on I tried researching on some few countries where we have mindfulness practices being in the forefront. And the entire African continent, I think it's quite South Africa, they have mindfulness programs which is actually meant for them. And well, we all know how just a few people in that country seem to be controlling the vast resources. Continuous practice of mindfulness helps you develop better character, better judgment. And better character, better judgment, you can trace them to critical and holistic thinking. If you pay attention to those who do a lot of critical and holistic thinking, you realize that anytime you are speaking or having a conversation with them, they are not distracted by the outside world. They are focused on everything, every single word which comes out of your mouth. Yes. If you're having a conversation with somebody who is extremely mindful, you will get to realize that they are soaking every single word that is coming out of your mouth. They are not just hearing, but they are listening. They are focused on what is happening in the present moment. Their attention has been drawn to the fact that they need to derive something from you. We have to all practice mindfulness. It is a lifestyle. There are different forms of mindfulness. Anybody, everybody can practice mindfulness. Some few mindfulness techniques that I practice. I think Drew has mentioned 3: meditation, visualization, body scans, and the 4th one is visualization techniques. Maybe in subsequent lessons, we will be looking at how to practice meditation. As for yoga practice, you have to be around physically to be able to experience yoga firsthand. For body scan, you can be guided to scan your body effectively and properly. Visualization techniques has to do with a lot of creative power. You should be able to visualize, you should be able to imagine. These qualities are what everybody needs, because you're supposed to learn how to develop focus. You're supposed to learn how to develop attention. These 2 qualities, every great philosopher, every great thinker will tell you that what you focus on, you will achieve. But focus and attention are learnable skills. You can't learn them in the classroom. You can't learn focus and attention in the outside world without. You learn focus and attention within. It's a skill. You learn it from within. Then you can apply it. You can use it outside. I think at this moment, if you have any question, I'll be available for a minute or 2 to take some few questions from you, and then from there, probably we'll meet in our next sessions. I'll be ready for some few questions. Yes, do mindfulness techniques, visualization, body scans, yoga stretch, and meditation. These are very important techniques. If you really want to take care of your physical well-being, your mental well-being, if you want to develop focus and attention, if you want to develop better character, better judgment, you want to learn the skill of holistic and critical thinking, you have to practice mindfulness. Your attention should be brought to the forefront. Okay, so I'll take your question on body scan. Shoot. Okay, so how does body scan really work? Okay, so your body is actually connected to your brain through the central nervous system, where you have electrical impulses traveling from every part of your body to your brain, and then from your brain to all other parts of your body. It's a two-way. Electrical impulses from all parts of your body to your brain, and then from your brain to the rest of your body. Now, if you regulate the way your electrical impulses flow, if you're able to control or dictate how the electrical impulses flow, you will be able to control, you will be able to regenerate certain feelings, certain emotions, certain responses. Body scan actually works if you're able to find yourself in a still position. You generate electrical impulse. Usually it starts from the center of the head, where we have the pineal gland, and then you direct it to your feet and back again. Well, I must admit that it takes a lot of practice to be able to achieve or get to this place. It takes a lot of practice. You can be guided during meditation. During meditation, you can be guided. So your instructor will tell you to lie down still. Imagine you have electricity running through your body, or you can be asked to feel certain parts of your body. Your instructor can ask you to feel your toes, feel the very tips of your fingertips. Your instructor can teach you based on his level of qualification actually. Yes, everything is based on using the mind. You practice, and the faculty, the section of your mind responsible for that activity becomes strong enough for you to be able to use it almost every now and then. So yes, the brain has different faculties. Your ability to use a particular faculty depends on how much you train that particular faculty. If I want to use my faculty of imagination, I have to practice imagination for that faculty to be developed for me to be able to use it effectively. If I want to learn how to scan my body, I have to practice this over and over until my muscles, the muscles in my brain, become strong enough to be able to carry out this activity. So yes, body scan has to do with the mind. It actually starts from the pineal gland, which is actually in the center of your mind, the brain. Yes, how is visualization different from imagination? Yes, so imagination is actually when you are able to conceive a particular idea, a particular concept, and visualization is when you bring that concept into a picture form. Imagination is when you are able to think of something. Visualization is when you are able to see it in your mind. Actually, the mind is the only organ in the entire human system which is capable of generating images. So generating an image means you have to visualize it. You have to create that image using imagination and then visualizing it to give you that picture. So yes, visualization, imagination, most people have that disconnect. They think the two are almost the same, but well, they are not. They are completely different concepts. They are completely different concepts. You can imagine something, and out of that imagination, you can create that picture. You can visualize it. You can form that image. It's a very important mind development tool, visualization. But it gives you the ability to toughen the muscle responsible for imagination. Visualization will give you the ability to harden that muscle responsible for imagination. Also, yes, and that is why we have a mindfulness-based mind development program we run for students in senior high schools, because the students have to understand how mindfulness contributes to their total mind development. And immediately the student understands this, well, they are only limited by their imaginations. So at this stage, if no further questions, I think subsequent sessions, subsequent classrooms, lessons, if we can look at specific mindfulness practices, because these practices are meant to be understood and practiced. Yes, imagination is more like thinking, and then visualization is more like translating it into pictures. I think you have put it more correctly and appropriately. Okay, so I think we have done more than 30 minutes, and I'll be available for subsequent lessons as to how to use mindfulness to develop, or specific mindfulness techniques to develop even better character and better judgment. So we'll sign out here, and then hopefully we'll get to meet in subsequent lessons. Alright, from our side, it's greetings to you all. Have a mindful and productive week. Goodbye.